Hey guys, this is Matt from Amateur Filmies and welcome to a brand new video where I'll be showing off all the Criterion Collection Blu-rays that Sarah and I picked up during the Barnes & Noble Amazon sale that just passed in July. And just to be clear, this Blu-ray update is separate from the other Criterion Collection video that we did a few weeks ago. The ones that we talked about in that video were from the UK sale that Zavi was putting on at the time, whereas, as I said, these ones were part of the actual 50% off sale that more people were familiar with. But with all that said, we have quite a few to actually get through and show off today, so sit back and we hope you enjoy. So all in all, we have about 17 pickups to show today, which is a bit excessive even by my standards, to be fair, but a lot of these have been on my wish list for a really long time, and Sarah's as well, of course. And yeah, we were just really excited to have the opportunity to actually pick these up at a decent price, all things considered. So the first one that we have to show is Steven Soderbergh's Sex, Lies and Videotape. I've seen quite a few of his films. I believe he did a lot of the Oceans movies, and I think he did Contagion as well, and obviously a bunch of others, but I picked this one up because I had heard such great things about it. I've known about this movie for quite a long time, and I remember hearing things about how apparently it had a really big impact on the independent filmmaking scene back at the time that this came out, which I think was about 1988, 89. And yeah, I'd heard about its good reputation, so I wanted to give it a go. I have noticed over the past couple of months that I have been gravitating towards sort of more relationship drama-oriented movies, and this one obviously fits into that category. I don't think it's an amazing movie. I definitely think the dialogue felt a little bit stilted at sometimes, and I wasn't really sold on how he decided to end the story. But again, that's just my own, personal opinion, of course. I think the film is otherwise quite good, so if you're on the fence about checking this one out, I would say it's a pretty safe bet. It's pretty good. The next film I'll be showing you is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Now, this is one of the newer releases that Criterion has put out, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this movie. Heaps of people have been picking this up during the sale. I haven't got a chance to check it out yet, just hasn't really worked out time-wise. Every time I want to watch it, Sarah's not available, and every time she wants to watch it, I'm not available, and, we definitely want to watch this one together. But apart from that, I've heard excellent things about this. Apparently the imagery in this is absolutely gorgeous, and the performances are really great and natural as well. Although, interesting story about this, completely unrelated to the movie itself, but this is the first Criterion I got that was actually damaged quite significantly in the mail, unfortunately. I don't know if you can really make that out. But the whole bottom of the case has actually been snapped off, and the booklet is actually poking out of the middle there. I did sort of ask for a replacement, but I think just because I'm located in Australia, they thought it was too much of a hassle, so they actually just ended up refunding me the price of the movie. So I technically got a free Criterion, albeit it is quite damaged. But all that aside, I'm still very excited to check it out because the disc is undamaged too. Here we have Blood Simple. Again, this is another one that had been on my watch list for such a long time because I'm such a fan of the Coen brothers as filmmakers. This was the first time watch for me, and I think it's actually one of the first feature-length movies that the Coen brothers ever did because it came out in 1984. It's crazy to think they've actually been making movies for that long, but I thought it was quite an effective thriller movie. It's definitely not my favorite Coen brothers movie, that's for sure, but definitely an engaging story. Despite it being quite well written and well directed, you can tell this was made earlier on in their career. I think they were still trying to find their style when they were making this movie, but one plot element that actually has carried on throughout their career was how they write characters who are constantly being confronted with really unlucky circumstances, and that has definitely carried on into other films like Fargo and No Country for Old Men. But yeah, on the whole, I think they were definitely developing their style here, and by the time they got to Fargo, you could argue that they perfected it then. Fargo is definitely the superior film in my opinion, but I still think this one is a really decent watch. Next we have the film Roma. Sarah insisted we pick this one up during the sale, but I'm definitely not complaining. I haven't actually watched this one yet, but I've heard absolutely amazing things about it. And of course, I am a fan of the director Alfonso Cuarón, I think you say his name. I mean, if I'm a fan of him, I should probably know how to say his last name, but regardless, I'm a fan of the director. I absolutely loved Children of Men. I thought that was a fantastic film, and he did do the best Harry Potter film, Prisoner of Azkaban, so I have really high expectations for this one, and based on the reviews that I've read and what I've heard from other people, I'm sure that I won't be disappointed. Here we have Noah Baumbach's Marriage Story. Very glad to have this one in our collection. Sarah and I have actually watched this one a couple of times, but we did rewatch it after having this arrive in the mail. And yeah, I really like it. As I said with Sex, Lies and Videotape, I have been watching a lot more a lot more relationship drama movies, and looking at movies with complicated family dynamics and examining that sort of stuff. So this one definitely fit the bill, and it is quite a good movie. I'm sure a lot of you have actually watched this one. Great performances all around, goes without saying. Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson play their roles excellently, and I think even Laura Dern got Best Supporting Actress for her role in this. I think the dialogue was quite naturalistic as well. If I had to criticize the movie on anything, which this isn't really a strong criticism anyway, but I will say that at times the main characters can be a little bit hard to relate to based on their actual specific circumstances. Like Scarlett Johansson is supposed to be a really well-known actress, or considerably well-known actress, and Adam Driver runs a theatre company, and they're extremely well off financially. And so it meant that at times in the movie it can be a little bit hard to relate to them. But at the end of the day, the movie is about marriage and the disintegration of personal relationships. So regardless of your class background or social background, whatever, like you can still empathize with these characters to a point for sure. And I do think the dialogue, as I said before, was really naturalistic and well written. So definitely a really great drama. I would highly recommend it if you haven't watched, although as I said, I'm sure a lot of you have watched this one. But yeah, definitely a good movie. This one here is Picnic at Hanging Rock. Again, this is another one that Sarah really wanted to pick up during the sale because she really loves this movie. I haven't actually watched it yet, much to her annoyance, but I am looking forward to checking it out because I've heard nothing but great things from her, but also from a number of reviews that I've read. And I know that Peter Weir is a pretty prolific director, and I've been wanting to check out some of his movies for some time now as well. So really excited to finally watch this one. Next up, we have the film Taste of Cherry. I could be wrong, but I think this is the first Iranian movie that I've ever watched, at least knowingly, because, that was what intrigued me about the movie to begin with. One, I had heard that it was considered one of the best Palme d'Or winners of all time, but also, I hadn't seen an Iranian movie before, so I wanted to, check one out and see in what ways it differs or is similar to, more Western movies. After watching this movie, it's definitely made me curious about the director's other works, which I know quite a few of them have actually been released by Criterion as well. But it is also one that I don't think is going to be to everyone's taste. It's very, very slow-paced and minimalist. And a funny fact about the movie actually is that Roger Ebert, the famous film critic, really hated this movie despite all the other critics around him absolutely loving this movie. So it is going to be quite divisive, I think. You're either going to love it or hate it. I'm personally in the love it camp, but as I said, it's not going to be for everyone. I thought the camera work in this movie was really great. The director utilized a lot of really long takes where, the camera didn't cut away from the character or the background or whatever it was focusing on at the time. But the scenes where they used long takes, I thought it fit quite well. And there were quite a few instances where you could tell the director had a really interesting visual style as well. One scene that pops to mind is when he plays around with the main character's shadow, his silhouette against a dirt mound. And there's machinery around him. Obviously, I'm being very specific, so if you haven't seen the movie, you probably you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But all that to say that he has a really interesting style, I think, and that does come through in the movie despite its minimalist approach. For my first foray into Iranian cinema, I think I did pick a really good film to start off with, so I definitely highly recommend it because it's an excellent movie that looks at human emotion and the human experience, so definitely check it out. Here we have Wes Anderson's The Fantastic Mr. Fox. If you watched our UK Criterion Blu-ray pickup video, you'll notice that we picked up quite a few Wes Anderson movies, and we did pick up 2 in this sale as well. This was actually a first-time watch for me, and I did quite enjoy it, although probably not as much as Isle of Dogs, which Wes Anderson did a couple of years ago now. In general, I'm not a huge fan of stop-motion animation, but in this case, I actually did quite enjoy it. I'm going to insist that Sarah watches this one with me, because she didn't actually end up checking it out at the same time that I did. But, like me, she's not a big fan of stop-motion animation, but she did like Isle of Dogs as well, so I'm going to insist that she watches this one with me. I don't mind rewatching it, because it is quite a fun movie. And to move straight into the other Wes Anderson film, we have The Grand Budapest Hotel. In the last video that I just referenced, I did say that I wasn't sure if this one was my favourite as when compared to Rushmore, because it had been some time since I'd watched this one. This one came out in 2014, and I hadn't watched it till probably since not long after it first originally came out, actually. But after getting this one in the mail, I did rewatch it, and now I can definitively say that this is definitely my favourite Wes Anderson film. I personally think this is Wes Anderson's most successful attempt to blend his unique original style with a really compelling story, because a lot of the time with his other films, it can sort of lean to one side more than the other, whereas this one, I think it's perfectly balanced. The symmetry and the colour scheme in this are just absolutely top-notch, as well as the costuming and the set dressing, just absolutely everything is just fantastic in this movie, and the acting is excellent as well. I really love Ralph Fiennes in this as the lead character, and just, yeah, I can't say enough positive things about this movie. I'm sure a lot of you actually have already checked this one out, but on the off chance that you haven't, I would highly recommend it because it's just in my opinion, as I've said already, it's Wes Anderson's best film. Here we have Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Haven't had the chance to watch this one, but again, I'm very excited to. I mostly got this one because it is a music-related film, and I haven't actually watched that many of those. The last one I think I watched would probably be Almost Famous. But again, I haven't actually watched that many films about music, and sounds silly because I love music so much as a personal hobby and interest anyway, so thought I'd give this one a go. Plus, as I've said with all the other ones that I haven't seen, I've just read so many great things about it. So if you have seen this one, definitely let me know what you think, in particular because I haven't actually heard that many people talk about this one. I've just read a lot of positive reviews. This next movie is The Vanishing. The movie is basically about a man and a woman who are part of a couple, and the woman actually goes missing after they visit a gas station during like a holiday trip. But what I thought was really interesting and clever about this movie was that the movie decided to alternate between the perspective of the man in the relationship, but also the person who was responsible for her kidnapping in the first place. I thought this is a really unique creative choice because it separates it from other mystery thrillers or that delve into similar subject matter. Because, not only do we experience the anxiety-inducing events and paranoia that plague the main character, we also get to look into the psyche of the person who is responsible for the kidnapping and crime in the first place. I can definitely see some people being dissatisfied with the ending of this movie, but I personally think it was quite a good ending, especially when you consider that the film is really about the idea of closure and what closure can mean to people who have experienced traumatic events and the consequences that can sometimes come with getting the closure that they think they want. So on the whole, I thought it was a really unique mystery thriller that definitely you should watch if you are into that type of genre. And as I said, it really does play with the narrative style as well as far as the alternating perspectives. Next, we have Straw Dogs. Talk about anxiety-inducing with The Vanishing. This one in particular made me sick to my stomach. Basically, it's about Dustin Hoffman's character and his partner. He plays like a type of mathematician from memory, and they relocate to a really rural area in the UK. I apologize for not remembering specifically where, but they're getting renovations done on their house, and they have some run-ins with the locals, and it sort of spitballs from there. There's definitely a real fish-out-of-water theme going on with this movie, which I've always liked that idea of movies, and it's very common in giallo movies, for instance, where, you have a main character who's, they're either in a new country and they don't know anyone, or, they're in a new town, etc. And they play with that idea in this movie. This one's obviously not giallo at all, but I've always liked that fish out of water idea in a movie because it does give you a lot of anxiety and helps you empathize with the character's helplessness. So there are a few scenes with some dark subject matter in it. So if you're a bit wary of watching movies with some graphic scenes, I'd be mindful of it because there are one or two scenes like that in this movie. But yeah, the story's not super original or unique, but I think the execution by director Sam Peckinpah is actually quite good. I do have a couple of gripes with the movie, which I won't go into right now, but on the whole, I do think it was quite an effective thriller. Here we have the film Repulsion. So this one was directed by Roman Polanski and is the first movie in, I don't know if it's an unofficial trilogy or an official trilogy, but they call it the Apartment trilogy of films, where it consists of Repulsion, which came out in, I think, 1965, Rosemary's Baby, I think 68, and The Tenant, which is in like the mid-70s. And we've watched Rosemary's Baby and The Tenant, and we thought they were both really good, especially Rosemary's Baby, so we wanted to pick this one up and check it out. I know it's a bit blasphemous to be talking about a movie I've only half watched, because we started to watch this one and then something came up, we had to pause it. But we're looking forward to resuming this movie. We've liked what we've seen so far. Distinguishes itself from the other two movies in that it is a black and white movie as well. But we've only watched, as I said, about a third or maybe even half of the movie. So we haven't actually seen too many actual horrific or drastic things happen yet. But it is sort of starting to progress towards that point. So we are really interested to see where the story goes with this one. So this next film is Do the Right Thing. So it goes without saying for all of these other releases, but in particular, the packaging on this one is absolutely brilliant. I'm sure I'll be showing it off on camera right now. But this was a first time watch for me and Sarah again, and I have to say that we both absolutely adored this movie. But yeah, this movie was there's something magical about this movie. I just thought it was such a vibrant, just colourful movie and really, really well directed with some great performances and awesome moments of like melodrama. Yeah, I'm really glad that I watched this movie because I had been wanting to watch more of Spike Lee's movies to begin with. I think the most recent one I watched of his was Black Klansman. But, I had heard such fantastic things about this movie. And, I'm glad that I decided to check it out because it's probably one of my favorites out of all the ones that I'm showing here today. And I think Sarah would say the same as well. Without giving too much away about the movie, I have to say that it, while I did mention that it was very vibrant and colorful and all that sort of stuff, there is a turning point in the film where it strays from that. It deviates from that, and it makes for a really hard-hitting, emotional impact on the audience, in my opinion, because, yeah, it's just the juxtaposition between what came first and what comes at the end. I thought was fantastically done. So again, if you haven't watched this one, I highly recommend it. And I think the content matter and just the film itself has aged really well in today's climate as well. So if you're interested at all about that aspect of the movie, I would say that it's also worth a watch. Next movie we have is Come and See. Without overthinking it, I would have to say that Do the Right Thing and Come and See are probably my favorite pickups from this entire haul. I know I've loved all of these movies here today to some degree, but in particular, these last two movies I thought were absolutely brilliant. Come and See has been a movie that I've been wanting to watch for such a long time. You know, I remember looking up the best war movies of all time, and this one would always make the list, so I'd been curious about it for years. And I remember when Criterion announced it, everyone went crazy for it, because I think prior to that it hadn't actually had a really good home release. It is a fantastic but brutal watch. Probably the most harrowing depiction of war that I've seen in a film ever. You know, I love Saving Private Ryan and Platoon and all the other sort of, war movies, and they're great in their own right, but this one, to me, really communicates the absolutely brutal nature of war and how it can impact a person and those around them. Just absolutely, I can't even put into words how much of an experience this movie was. If you watch this movie, you will definitely need to get some fresh air afterwards, because it's such a hard-hitting movie. And I know I've talked about performances quite a lot in this haul, naturally, because these are all great movies, but I don't know the actor's name. I should know prior to talking about it, but this actor right here, who plays the main character, his performance is absolutely fantastic. Just watching him turn from, someone really hopeful to someone absolutely just destroyed by the brutality of war. I thought he did an absolutely amazing job at communicating that to us as the audience. 100% check it out. Highly, highly recommended. As I said, this one and Do the Right Thing, probably the ones I highly recommend the most out of this entire haul. Second last, we have The Great Escape. I know this is bad of me to say, but I actually haven't watched this one yet. I've been meaning to put it on, but it's one of those movies similar to when I first watched Seven Samurai. I felt like I had to wait for the right moment to watch it, just because it is such a long movie. I think in this case, it's just shy of 3 hours, which I don't mind movies that are that long. They're totally fine, but I just got to find the actual right time to watch them. But yeah, obviously not really need to say much about this movie. It's supposed to be absolutely brilliant. I mostly got this off the strength of my dad's recommendation, whose opinion I do take quite seriously with these type of movies. I know he loved this one growing up. It's just got so many famous actors in it. I mean, just to read off the back, you've got Steve McQueen, James Garner, Richard Attenborough, Charles Bronson, Donald Pleasance, James Coburn, all-star cast, and of course it's just supposed to be a legendary movie with such an amazing legacy, and yeah, I just can't wait to watch it. And the last one I'll be showing you today is the Bruce Lee box set. Now, I may have mentioned in a previous video, I'm not actually 100% sure, but I actually grew up loving these Bruce Lee movies. In this set, you actually get The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, The Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon, and Game of Death. And yeah, I grew up loving these movies. I used to watch them on VHS, and just the fight scenes intrigued me. And the ones that I had were always in English dubbed language. So this was actually the first time I actually got to watch the movies in their original language with English subtitles, which is awesome as well. But yeah, the fight scenes I used to love. I remember watching the Chuck Norris fight scene in Way of the Dragon over and over and over again. And I think the movie I watched the most as a kid was probably The Big Boss. But as far as what I think is actually the best movie in this set, I would say it's Fist of Fury. And rewatching it, I knew that Quentin Tarantino had taken a lot of inspiration from the Bruce Lee movies in the Kill Bill movies. But when you watch, especially in particular Fist of Fury, you actually see how much it played a role in his writing and directing of Kill Bill. It's just been so fun rewatching all of these movies. They definitely vary in quality, but ultimately they are just really fun martial arts movies. I think personally, besides Game of Death, which I haven't rewatched in so many years, out of The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon, I think Way of the Dragon's probably the worst. But yeah, I think Fist of Fury is the best. But they're all fun in their own way. And if on the off chance that you are into martial arts movies but you haven't checked out the Bruce Lee classics, this is a really, really great set by Criterion that you should definitely consider picking up, because yeah, the restorations are great. Lots of great special features in here as well. The presentation's amazing of this release, and just overall a really, really great package. So very happy to have this in my collection, both just for the movies themselves, but just for nostalgic reasons as well. So that brings us to the end of the Criterion haul. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. I'm so happy to have all these movies in our collection because all of them, you know, different points, but for the most part, they've all been absolutely brilliant. Can't wait to get around to the ones that I haven't actually checked out yet. But as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on these movies. Tell me what you think about them, whether or not you have some recommendations for me as well, you know, for the next future sale that I'm sure that we'll participate in. But yeah, I was really excited to show you guys this. So I hope that you have enjoyed hearing my thoughts on them as well. But yeah, appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.